Okay, so I think we're ready to go. All right, Cynthia. You know, it's hard for me to imagine a time when I didn't know Cynthia Knox. It really honestly is. Um, and but when I think of our beginnings, it's just, I mean, your history and mine, it's just kind of funny. It's a funny story. It's actually a series of funny stories, you know? And but it's really thrilling for me to, because I mean, it's been probably 20 years that
So
we, yeah,
I mean,
right,
you
right.
went to one of my kids' weddings.
Yes,
You
we
and
can do it here
you
again.
and I sat in the bride and groom seat, and we toasted each other, and we ate their dessert. They were off dancing, and we
But
were just
I just have to share that the two first, I mean, our stories, like you, the first workshop where you came to mind in Long Island,
yes.
New York, and the woman next to you was your mother?
My let's see, what was she? My stepmother? I don't
Okay.
know. So
Yeah.
my husband's father married her. Lovely lady, Sophie, lovely woman.
And so Cynthia is in this workshop of mine in Long Island, New York, which was the weirdest workshop because it was completely full of
Oh,
cops. It was
oh,
all cops that do the, you know, the drawing in the courtroom. I don't know what they're called,
yeah,
courtroom
yeah,
artists.
for the suspects.
Yes.
So
Oh
they were
yeah,
like
right.
really, they were these tough guys, and you would ask really nice, sweet artist questions, and they would just grunt. Like they had nothing to say. They were just there to get their sketching
Well,
skills.
except for
And
they
here
were,
we were drawing a pretty Tammy.
and you are in the back, and your mother-in-law or whatever, you know, stepmom, whatever,
Sophie, yeah.
she isn't understanding anything, and you are basically reteaching the workshop word for word. Everything I'd say, you'd re-say to her. And
That's okay.
I
I
remember
really,
thinking you were the most patient woman I
uh,
had ever met in my life, because not once during those 3 days did you show even the tiniest bit of impatience. So, I
oh,
mean, you were somebody to remember just from that. Like, who in
thank
life
you.
is that patient and sweet and
I'm
gracious?
not always that patient,
Oh,
and
I
I'm
think you are.
really not
I think
always
you are.
that sweet. No. Well, Anne, you know I'm not always that sweet. Remember when I smacked you on the back of your head on a cruise? So everybody who's listening, I think it was the second or the third cruise I was on with Anne. You know I'm always honored to be asked to do anything with Anne. And by the way, thank you for having me. And just want to say, really appreciate being here. And you are an amazing entrepreneur, and everything you do has just got the Midas touch. But on that cruise, you organized the group photo. Now, it's very important to me to be in the group photo, right? Because, I'm an instructor. So the group photo was organized, but did I know that? No, nobody told me that. So we're sitting at dinner. I'm sitting next to this lovely woman from Australia, and I turned to her. I think I was on my first glass of wine, maybe my second. I only had two, but I turned to her and told her how beautiful she looked. And she said, yes, I really wanted to dress up tonight for our group photo. I said, what group photo? And she goes, yeah, you weren't there. I said, we had a group photo tonight. She said, yeah, there were like 40 of us. I said, really? So I looked over at my husband and I said, I'm going to go smack Ann. So I walked over to you, and you're holding court at that table there in the middle. Everybody's laughing at what you said. And I just walked over and just smacked you on the back of your head, and then walked back to my seat. And
I
everybody was,
deserved it. I deserved it. It was, of course, not on purpose.
of course, I know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty scatterbrained. I mean, that's why I have so many great people working for me. But but I
It
do have
was
to tell
funny,
you, I do have to say one other thing. The third workshop that Cynthia took of mine, it was the same Tammy workshop.
right?
And she had invited me to Albany, New York to teach, or Clifton Park, New York to teach.
Right?
And on the third day of the workshop, I woke up with the most
Yeah.
intense cold. I could not get out of bed. And I called Cynthia and I said, Cynthia, you have to teach the last day of my workshop.
And
She,
you know what I love about you? You don't call me at 5 a.m. You don't call me at 6. The workshop starts at 8:30. You call me at 8:15. After I fall over on the floor,
No.
pick
Workshops
myself up.
never start before 10. You even had time to get me soup. But the thing is, you taught that workshop after having, I think
Marion.
it's the third.
Marion Romig. Remember
Yeah.
Marion, that sweet, amazing artist from Rochester? She was there because, like me, she's one of your workshop groupies. We got to know Tammy so well that we were, we really wanted to disinherit her. But she was with me, and the two of us, we made copies of everything we'd ever done with you. We ran to UPS and made all kinds of copies. We explained to the group, it was a full class.
Yeah.
So we explained to the group, and they were wonderful.
Yeah.
Everybody was
They were.
very understanding. We just went
But
through the
still,
whole thing.
you taught. I mean, that was so impressive, I mean, you're such an impressive human being. And I mean, never, I mean, forget artist. You're just a very, 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 very impressive human being.
Sweet, but thank you.
And I'm honored to know you. And before we start with your art here, and I just wanted to show you that I dug this up. This is a really early piece because I want to show you, this was 2002.
Oh, yes.
You entered it into the member show for the magazine. And I mean, this is so impressive because this is.
Oh, I cringe when I look at that.
This is probably about the time you started. This wasn't very far into you starting.
It was, and I think the name of that horse was Showdown Legacy.
Yes, that's what it says, the Showdown Legacy.
Yeah, and I'd gotten permission to draw it, and I, feeling pretty excited about it, and I sent it to the owners, and they really did not like it. They wanted me to redo it. I know. I don't think I even charged them. It was like, may I please draw this for you? They did not like it, and I just thanked them for giving me permission to draw it, and that was that. Nobody was mad at each other, but I think that they were envisioning something else, and I get it. But anyway, that was one of my earlier pieces. Yep.
Well, I didn't mean to bring up anything, negative.
Oh, no,
I brought it up to show people, like, look, she started fantastic. Like, there was no, there really wasn't. You just went from picking up the pencils to doing beautiful art, like, instantly.
Well, thank you, but I have my share of duds.
Well, I guess I haven't seen them. So, and the other interesting thing in looking over your work, I mean, in looking at the stallion or whatever, I don't know anything about horses. Looking at the horse, I mean, you found your technique right away, didn't you? Like, this is also one of your more early pieces, kind of, right?
Yes, you're right. And I learned from you, Anne, but you will do like 20 layers to get to a really beautiful look. And I've always admired you, and I have your book. In fact, I had to order it again because it's so written on. But I am like when I drive on the road, when I get in my convertible, I'm not starting at 20 miles an hour and then going to 25 and 30. I'm hitting the gas. So when I'm hitting the gas and I get up to 50, 60 within maybe a couple minutes or so or less, I'm the same way when I draw. And that's why I like to go from maybe 1 or 2 layers at moderate pressure, and then I'm hitting the pencil and burnishing the heck out of it so I can get that painterly look. And that's become my style. And
you started, I mean, that really early, like really, really, really right away, even though you were on Stonehenge, right? This piece is on Stonehenge?
Yeah. And then I switched over to Bristol Smooth by Strathmore. And I hate to say I'm a one-trick pony, but I kind of am. However, I'm branching out and trying other different supports, but I'm just so happy with my Prismacolor pencils. When I'm having a bad day, I get on my phone, I pull up Amazon, and I order another set of 150 Prismacolor pencils because I want to see my UPS delivery guy come in with my Prismacolors, and that'll make me feel better the next day or 2 days later. I just love Prismacolors, and I love the way they are when they come into contact with smooth Bristol paper. And one of the fallacies that I hear, and I see it all over Facebook, is that you can only get a few layers on Strathmore Bristol Smooth, and that's just not true. I can get tons of layers on there. The thing that will quit on you is when you have a lot of layers and you have a lot of pigment on there, and then you're adding another pencil layer and it just skates. It'll just skate across and says, they say, I'm done. I'm not giving you any more color. But I have a trick for that too. And the trick for that, there's two things you can do. And I tell my students, the first thing you can do is you can sharpen the pencil that you're using. Let's say it's just not quite green enough for you. Sharpen that green pencil to a nice point. Use moderate pressure, no more than 2 out of 5 pressure, and use diagonal strokes across it, because your paper is used to receiving vertical or horizontal or rounded strokes. Kind of just switch it up a little bit, do diagonal strokes, and it will receive that pigment. But if it doesn't, take your workable fixative. Let me show you what I use. I use the Krylon, and give this a spray. Just first of all, you shake it and then you test it in the air, because you don't want it spitting or drooling or dribbling on your artwork. You spray it 6 inches away from your artwork, give it a couple minutes, and then now you have something sticky. You have like a sticky layer that you can apply pigment to, and you can get probably another 2 layers of pencil.
With your medium to heavy pressure?
No, not heavy. You've got so much pigment on there, you don't want to scratch through it. But lighter pressure, 2 pressure, and you'll get it on there.
So as long as we're talking about supports, I'm gonna guess that this is a colored ground. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's different for me. This is where I'm going out of my box. So for Christmas, I wanted to do a surprise for Catherine. You met Catherine and Zach. So I wanted to draw their Great Dane, Roma, who's absolutely adorable. And I wanted to get it done quickly. And a lot of my artist friends are using the pastel mat, and they're using the polychromos, the Faber-Castell polychromos pencils. So I said, what the heck, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I did, and I'm happy with it. It's not fantastic by any means, but they recognized the dog on Christmas morning, and that's all I cared about. They said, that's our dog. And I said, bingo, I nailed it.
So you liked the pastel mat, and this is like the only one here that you have on that?
Yeah.
So before we move off the dog and your family, I imagine we're going to be seeing baby pictures pretty soon.
Aren't they adorable? So
and boy, does this one look like her daddy. I can't.
Yes, you're so right. So her name is Adeline, and she looks like Garrett. And her name is Evelyn, and she looks like Abby. This is when they were much younger. I actually I hired somebody to do a photo shoot of them last week. I wonder if I can actually show you a little bit. I'm going to go into my camera and show you something. All right, so let's see if I can show you this. I'm going to pop up. Now look at that cute little girl. She's just looking over. So this is Adeline, this is Evelyn, and there they are. Just so precious. Great. So anyway, one of these I am going to draw. Maybe one, maybe 2, who knows?
Yeah.
Someday. Yeah.
It's life-changing, isn't it?
It is, and that's how you feel about your Evie. How old is she now?
She's 9.
9. Oh, she gets prettier every day.
Gosh, you had the best next 2 or 3 years. I mean, well, I love that little toddler.
I love it too. I get a lot of snuggles in, and everybody talked about that. Now, I was never a baby person. People would say, oh, do you want to hold my baby? And I'd say, not really, thank you. But if somebody walked by with puppies, I'm all over them. If they're strangers, I didn't care. It's like, let me touch your puppy. So I've always been a puppy person, never a baby person. But now I just adore those girls.
Yeah, of course you do. And it really is, life-changing. At least it was for me. I'm not a baby person either. And I didn't care if I had grandkids till I held that little one. And then it was all over.
Exactly.
But speaking of puppies, is this, can you tell us anything about this one?
Yeah, sure. So I don't do an awful lot of Furbies because I just don't. But when I was doing a workshop for the villages in Florida, and a shout out to all my friends there, they requested a Furby project. So I said, okay. So I found this on Shutterstock, which is where I go to get some of my favorite photos. And I thought this was adorable. So I thought, how hard can this be? So I even decided not to use smooth Bristol paper. I used the Canson Me. Now, my
Oh,
art,
really? You
yeah,
use
my
the
art store,
Canson?
yes, my art store says it's called Me Tant. Well, I
Whatever.
don't know if it's called Me Tant. It's spelled Me Tientes.
Right.
So I use this cream paper. And as I was halfway into creating this, I realized that I did not really care for it. First of all, smudges, it would smudge fairly easily on the outside. And that's always a problem when you're not planning on doing a background. You got to keep that paper background super clean. But this is the first and only project that I put a hole in. So yeah, I put a hole in this. Now I'm not going to tell you where it is just because I have a little dignity here, but I put a hole in that sucker and I was devastated. It's because I kept trying to rework this area that just didn't want to be reworked.
But also
And
Canson, right? I mean, that is one of the reasons I've never used Canson is like, I want
flimsy,
a paper that is going to hold up no matter what I
it's a
throw at it.
amen. It's a flimsy paper and I wasn't getting it right. And all of a sudden, boops, there we got ourselves a little hole. So, I've made 10,000 mistakes during my 10,000 hours of drawing. So what I want to share with anybody who puts a hole in their paper, that there's a little fix for that too. So if you are working on your project and you have passed the point of no return and you put a hole in it, then what I recommend is you take another piece of that paper, a tiny little piece, you color it in exactly the same color of where that hole was, and then you just tape it underneath your original surface so that people will see the color matches. They probably won't see the edges. If so, just skim a pencil from the edge over the paper that's in the middle of the hole and just keep going, because when you have your piece matted, definitely matted and framed, and then you've got glass over it or plexiglass, nobody's going to see it. So there, right? So if you got a hole in your paper, just keep going. It'll be fine.
I wish I'd had that. I wish I had thought of that years and years and years ago. I had a student who put a hole in her paper, but none of us thought of that solution. She just started over with a different paper with Stonehenge.
Well, yeah, I mean, it happens. I've had to
Yeah.
start over. I was doing a piece of, in fact, I didn't put that artwork up, but it was called Shell Phones, where my daughter Abby was on a dock holding it's not on there. I
Yeah.
didn't put it up, but my daughter Abby was holding a conch shell to her ear and looking at her best friend Maria. And so I used to draw really for me, large, 11 by 17. I must have had 30 hours into the thing. And I was really proud of it. And I had 5 dogs at the time. I'm a sucker for dogs. We rescue dogs, whatever, and they got into a fight. So whenever there's a dog fight in our house, it was a pile on, and somehow my piece got in the middle of it and they scratched the heck out of it. So it was completely destroyed. And so after I broke them apart, you know how to break up a dog fight? you just put the hose on them.
Oh.
You just blast the heck out of them with water and they will stop, because dogs don't like to be sprayed with water. So anyway, now my piece is wet on top of being scratched up. But it turned out to be a good thing, a blessing, because I had done that photo shoot on Lake George, a dock on Lake George. That's a lake in the Adirondacks. You're never going to see a conch shell in Lake George. What was I thinking? It didn't make sense. You have lake water that's blue and a couple conch shells that made no sense at all. So when I redid it, I had it a Caribbean background, and that, saved myself some embarrassment, future embarrassment.
Oh, that's great. Gosh, there's so much beautiful work here. I mean, I'm so drawn to this one. I absolutely love
Oh, thank you.
this. It's so simple and so perfect. This is pretty recent.
It
So,
is. This was a workshop not too long ago. And I just wanted to show how to do strawberries and glass
oh gosh, the
and the background.
strawberries,
Thank you.
they're just so right. Uh,
Ah,
it's kind of funny because I had just looked at another color pencil piece with of strawberries right before going to your Padlet, and I remember when I looked at these other strawberries, I thought, well, the problem is strawberries are glistening, they're hard.
yeah.
And if you don't, and that person hadn't gotten that glisten, the texture was wrong, right? And then I come to your Padlet and I see these, and I'm like, now that's how you do strawberry.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, keep in mind, Ann, I've learned from a lot of your instructors. You've had several instructors do in-depth tutorials.
Yeah.
I think, was it Janie Peary?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, she did a great one with strawberries.
No, no, no. The strawberry one is Irina Cotton. Irina Cotton. Irina
Karamashova?
Karamashova. Yeah. She
Okay.
did the strawberry.
Well, you've had some wonderful instructors. So, I'm still learning. I'm always going to be learning from other artists. So,
So for a while, okay, so at the beginning, you were kind of doing horses for a little bit.
well, there's
And
a
then,
story behind that, and
okay,
it involves you.
okay.
So, when I first started, and I started entering competitions, that was great. But I decided I wanted to do books and I wanted to teach. Well, I was working with Walter Foster Publishing at the time. And one night, late at night, an email came up because you had just done a book with Gemma, and it was CP Cats. I think that was one of your first books. And I thought, huh, I wonder if she'll do a book with me. So, what can it be? What can it be? How about horses? What the heck? I don't know anything about horses, but who knows? I'll learn. I wonder if she'll say yes. And you said yes. So I don't know a thing about horses. White horse, black horse, brown horse, gallop, gippity, yeah, who knows? But I thought they're really pretty. And so let's see what Ann says. So you said, yeah, do a horses book for me. And I was absolutely thrilled. So my camera and I went everywhere. I took pictures at the Saratoga racetrack.
I
I
knew you
remember,
had gone there. Yeah.
yeah, I was hanging over the edge there, and this guy was trying to pick me up, and I was just trying to get rid of him. And he's really creepy. And he said, if you go down there, all the way down there with me, wink, wink, um, you'll get much better shots. I'll make sure you get better shots. And I said, no, no, thank you. I'm good here. And I just kept taking pictures of jockeys as they came in. And the best picture was, of course, the last one, because the jockey was wearing pink and purple, pink and purple. And I thought,
Uh,
I like that. But
that,
anyway, the horse book was a lot of fun. I loved it. And then I moved on.
yeah, you did move on. I have a question. I had a question. There's a question in the Q&A. What's your art training, Cynthia? Did you
Oh,
study art at art school?
I have no art training.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zilch, nada. But I can tell you, I just had to film a video clip for Walter Foster Publishing a couple hours ago. They're celebrating 100 years, and they asked if I would do a clip for them. And I started out learning from Jean Frank's How to Draw books. And I drew a walnut, and I drew a pony, and I drew an egg. I mean, those were my first three projects. And it really resonated with me. I felt very good about it. And that was how I started. So I taught myself from Walter Foster books. Then I took your workshops. I took 3 of your workshops. I took a couple with Lee Hammond. She's got an awful lot of books through Northlight, just like you. And then everything changed for me when I purchased an artist magazine on the newsstand and saw a drop dead, breathtaking artwork by Barbara Edidin.
Oh,
And
yes.
I'm going to spell her name for everybody who's watching because I really want you to see her stuff. It's Edidin. Barbara is absolutely like on another planet in terms of still life colored pencil artwork. She'll blow you away. And so at the time I was fearless. I wasn't afraid to ask anybody anything. So I found her and I emailed her and I asked if she would teach me. And I think she just had pity on me and she very casually just emailed and taught me her technique. And then she invited me to dinner in Arizona with her and her husband and her dog. And she's just the nicest lady ever. And she showed me, she has these massively sized paintings, because we all agree that when you use a few layers of colored pencil, you can call it a drawing. But when you're saturating pigment, you get a lot of layers. You now have a full-on colored pencil painting.
Right.
It's just like pastels. Pastels are a dry medium. We call them a painting. So anyway, she showed me these incredibly gorgeous works. But a sad story here is that she was positioning herself for an incredible show in New York City at a gallery, Leslie Levy Gallery in New York City. And she's in Arizona. And so she was coming in to do that, and 9/11 happened. And 9/11 happened and it shut down the city. I mean, it was in lockdown and the show was canceled and all air travel was canceled and it just kind of fizzled out. And she was selling her pieces for like $20,000 each. And they were certainly worth that. So she's done a bit of a pivot and she now does other different types of art. But I want to shout out to her as one of the most influential people in my art life, in addition to yourself, Anne.
Yes, her work was absolutely astounding.
Yes, and her
And
name,
you can see her influence in your
yeah,
work, the like sort of the over, the lush,
thank you. That was
yeah.
my first colored pencil still life.
This
And
was right here.
yes, and I
Oh,
asked
it's
her,
like oh one.
I took that picture. That base is it's a gift from somebody in the family, and that scarf is one of my mom's scarves. And I brought the photograph with me to her, and I brought some books because there were some colored pencil artists who had books out who were doing still lifes. And I said, do you think I should work through their projects to get to a point where I know what I'm doing? And she said, no, you should start. You will make your mistakes along the way. But she said, start in the upper left-hand corner and just travel down and just be very precise with your drawing. And I literally drew it as I was going along and it came together. It must have taken me 3 months, but came together.
Yeah, see, like I said, I mean, you just had it, you were one of those that just you started with it and then grew. You didn't really have even that much to grow to. I mean, anyway, somebody has asked, do you use an Icarus board and do you think it's a worthwhile investment? But also somebody said, thank you, ladies, you give me hope, which is very
That's
sweet.
nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. I do see a message here. Barbara Edidin, Edidin is her
Oh,
name.
I put that on.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank
Yeah.
you. So let's see. Esther Roy, she invented the Icarus board well into my colored pencil journey. And I give her kudos like nobody else because that is a brilliant, brilliant invention. I do not use it, and I'll tell you why. Everything that I use is something that my students can afford and can access. Everything I do now is for books or for workshops. So I can't put on my supply list that you need an Icarus board to do this project. And that's why I don't use it, but I highly recommend it because everybody loves it. And those are they're heated boards where one side, it can get very, very warm, and that's great with wax pencils because it will kind of meld the colors together because of the heat, and you can kind of move it around like paint. And the other side of the board, you can keep it cooler. So it's brilliant, but I don't use it.
Somebody else has asked if you do you use colored pencil or pastel or something else to get that variegated look? I mean, I know that you don't, but she's talking about like in the flyby, here we go. She wants, yeah.
Well, that's a good question because
It is a good
you know
question.
what? That's actually could be a little lead into my little demo here. I've got a couple minutes.
Okay.
So this flybys, I did want to do pan pastels in the background. And as I was doing the pan pastels, they became a little chalky for me. And I was working on the Smooth Bristol 300 series. But what happens when you keep throwing layer on top of layer, even though you think that it's supposed to be smooth, it starts to catch on the paper and it starts to look a little choppier than I personally prefer. And that happened to me. And I'm going to pull this book out and I'm now going to change my video to my USB camera here.
Okay, if you're going to do that, I think what I will do is stop sharing. And then I will take the spotlight off of me. And now now your demo should just be there.
Okay. All right, great. You got it. So this was the project I was doing for this book. Let me bring my camera in. So this book I was working on. And so I said to you, Anne, how would you feel if I did some pan pastel? It seems like this sexy new medium and I want to play with it. And you said, yeah, go ahead. Let's give it a try. So I put some on here and Anne, you taught me a style of doing books where I do a little bit of everything as I'm going along. So incrementally with each step, I was adding more and more pan pastel. And then it was starting to look like a freaking disaster. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is just so choppy and I don't know what I'm going to do. So I had a little meltdown.
Nobody else is noticing that it looks like a disaster.
I mean, it was okay. I mean, that's not good for me.
It's
that's
not you. You're right.
No,
it's not you.
No. And so I thought, what do I do? So I cried, I prayed, and then I came up with the solution. And my solution has always been my white Prismacolor pencil because I call it my magic pencil. I've learned how to erase colored pencil mistakes with it. I can carve through existing pigment and create whiskers and catch lights. And yeah, this is my magic pencil. So I pulled out my magic pencil and went to work and it saved the day. So I'm going to give you guys a little 5-minute demo on how to use pan pastel and how I take pan pastel and I will smooth it out even more. So let me turn this light on. What I'm using right now are 2 pots of pan pastel. One is called Red Iron Oxide Extra Dark and the other is Chromium Oxide Green. So I've already got my paper dirty, so I'll flip it over. So what I want to show you is my technique for how I smooth out pan pastels. So the first thing I'm going to do, I like to use these little mini applicators. And I'm going to go into this pot here. And I'm pretending that I'm working on a woodland background, sort of like, you know, for birds in the Adirondacks or something. So I'm blowing away the pastel dust because if I swept it away with my brush, I might smear it. So I blow it away. If you do that, be careful that you don't spit because that can happen. So the next color I'm going to put over that is Chromium Oxide Green. I'm going to just go over that like that. So now we're getting this nice green appearance here. And I say, oh, gee, I think I need a little bit more green. So I'll put on another layer. And the benefit to using pan pastels, especially for a background, is that you can really slap down color fast. In under 2 minutes, you can have your whole background heavily colored and you can really darken it quickly. So I do like that. So now I'm going to do some brown on the right side, just the right side. And then some green on the left side, just the left side. Blow away that. And a little bit more brown on the right side. So I do want to show you that a a pencil eraser, like this is so great, by the way, Tombow Mono Zero, these are awesome. And you can erase little sections of pan pastel very quickly. So just kind of remember that, because that's a nice thing. So now I'm looking at this and saying, okay, I want to transition this. I want to transition the green into the brown, but I also want to seal in and smooth this section here. Pretend this is my background and I want to transition green into brown. So I'll take my white pencil and give it a sharpen. Now keep in mind, I'm using Prismacolor. Prismacolor pencils, they've had a black eye in the last X amount of years because their manufacturer has changed. And so the core is a wax core, and a wax core is soft. Just remember that, guys. Wax cores are soft. Yes, your point is going to break. And sometimes it breaks and it doesn't need to break, but it breaks. Just don't get overly upset, because sometimes a jagged point or a dulled edge will be okay, especially if you're applying pressure. It won't break again. Just keep going. But anyway, I'm using the Prismacolors, and I tell my students that they're just like my kids. You love them, but sometimes they can be very bad. But okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm using a rounded overlapping stroke into the brown, into the green. So I'm kind of marrying these two together. So I'll have seamless transitions. And while I'm applying this wax over this pan pastel, I am now converting it to a colored pencil surface rather than a pastel surface, which is good because it's being pushed into the tooth of the paper. It's being sealed by the wax, by the pigment of my pencil. And I'm also diffusing the colors so that we're getting a nice, smooth surface. So I know it looks rather anemic because that happens whenever you use white, but it's preparing the surface, retexturizing it, and just getting it ready for me to come in with a couple pencils. And those pencils will be my final layers. So I'm going to bring in an olive green now. So this is effectively sealed in. I'm not going to get pencil smudgy on my hand because I've sealed it in with colored pencil. So now I want to intensify color a little bit. So I'll come in with my olive green. I'm not going to come in with too much pressure or an overly sharp point because I don't want to scratch it. So I'm just using overlapping rounded strokes. I'm going into the brown, come in over here. Now, as I apply this colored pencil, this green, I'm saying to myself, well, where's the brown going to come in? Do I need to get more brown over that green? And I may say, yes, I do. I need to bring in some dark umber. I need to brown it up. And so I would go back and forth with this, back and forth with this until I get it so smooth that I'm really happy. So that's the end of this little demo, and that's just my technique for smoothing out pan pastel, getting nice backgrounds, and sealing in the pastel. So now that it's a surface of colored pencil, and by the way, now that you've got this surface, you can use this very nicely to spray on top of it and seal it in even more. So Anne, if you would pop me back into the Padlet, then I can show everybody the birds again, the flybys.
I will attempt with all my, let's see, okay. So now I did want to comment that, man, you stay in one spot a long, well, not one spot, but I mean, you are going over and over and over and over and lots of overlapping as you're doing that smoothing.
Yes.
Somebody does say in the comments that I figured out that if you put down a layer of the pan pastel colorless blender first on the smooth paper, it works beautifully. So I didn't know there was a colorless pan pastel blender.
Right, I didn't know that, but it's always good to hear tricks like that. Right. And we, especially in workshops, we all benefit from other people's suggestions. But that was the background for that, for those birds. The birds, that was the pan pastel
okay.
background. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And that just took a lot of time, and it's not
Yeah.
one of those quick hacks.
Right.
It's not. It's just I slapped down green, I slapped down purple, and it was another mess. But at this point, I had the confidence in knowing that my white pencil would come to the rescue, and it did. It just
Yeah.
melded. It just
Plus
smoothed
the
it.
white gives that hazy sort of,
Yes.
background look, which is really
Yes.
nice. So now in this one, that was not the case. This was just
That's pure
regular
pencil. Yep. Pure
color
pencil.
pencil. This is a
Right.
beautiful piece. I love this
Thank you.
composition.
Thank
Uh,
you.
and this is just color pencil, or is this a little?
Oh, that was just color pencil. That was for our last book.
Right. Sweet things. Yes. Adorable.
Yeah. They called that
I
one
just,
Sweet
I,
Spot.
I did want to just talk about this a minute because it's so it's like so different than anything else that you have, on. Do you want to talk a minute about this?
Yeah, sure. So this was one of my earlier pieces. This was another large one, 11 by 17. And I was raising small children at the time. And the phrase losing her marbles meant a lot more then than it does now. So, and life was a little challenging at the time. There were some things that weren't quite going right. So I decided to turn that into an artwork, and I employed my darling small children. And so I had these marbles, and I said, Abby, you're responsible for getting the marbles that bounce out of the bucket and go rolling down the driveway. So you got to go get the marbles. Catherine, you pour the marbles into my hands. So I had one pouring, the other one running after them on the driveway. And meanwhile, I had my camera on a tripod filming the whole
Oh,
thing. So yeah, that was losing her marbles. And at that time, the black background, because I've switched how I get my black backgrounds now, but this was on white paper, not black paper, white paper. And the way I got black then was I did 4 layers of Prismacolor pencil. The first one would be the black Prisma. Then I would put Tuscan red on it. Then I would put indigo blue over it. And then I burnish the heck out of it with Prismacolor black. Since then, I use 1 layer of Prisma black, and then I use this new pencil, to me, Stabilo All, that's in quotes, Stabilo All marking pencil number 8046. And I get mine in boxes from Dick Blick. And it's just the greatest pencil for delivering super rich, dark blacks. And whenever I put up a piece on Facebook, like I just recently put up a piece and did a workshop called Flame. And yeah, I think that workshop, yeah, that where it says February online workshop and you see the dahlia over to the right. Yep, that's it. I taught the second one on
right.
Monday.
Okay.
So people will say, why don't you use black paper? Now, black paper, and I want to just shout out to some of your artists who have published for you. Amy Lindenberger does a great job. One of your books on black paper, and Carmen Barros does awesome work on black paper. I don't do black paper. And the reason for that is because I don't want to spend all that time reversing it to get to that white base so I can bring out those vibrant colors, when I can get it immediately on white paper and then just install the blacks around there and call it my background. So that it's just personal preference.
Yeah.
But that's why I will probably always use white paper.
Yeah. I'm with you. I just don't like the I absolutely love it in other people's hands.
Right.
I don't like it in my hands. Let's put it that way. But here we've got the actual thing here. Look at that.
Oh yeah. 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 And so that got smoothed out with the white pencil, and even that looks a little chalky right now on the screen. The actual image is not quite so chalky, but yeah, so just doing that and using dark umber and black around the edges just to transition is what I ended up
Everybody
doing.
else sees that as a really, 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 really smooth background, Cynthia. I think you're the only one who sees that as anything but perfect.
Backgrounds.
Somebody asked if you could repeat the info about the black pencil.
Sure. It's black, it's Stabilo, that's the brand. The line is called All, ALL in quotes, marking pencil. and I have it on good authority from Vera Kurnow herself that the all marking pencils are good for CPSA colored pencil exhibitions where they call for 100% colored pencil. Those pencils can be used. And I asked her specifically because in the summer I taught a workshop for CPSA. Let me see if it's in there. Is it in there? And if you scroll down the Padlet, I don't remember if I uploaded it. But anyway, she said, yes, that pencil is allowed. And, oh yeah, oh no. Oh, I don't think I included it. Oh well. Yeah, but that was CPSA. For those of you who are on who don't know about CPSA, Ann and I are very, very happy that Colored Pencil Society of America exists. And that is a colored pencil group, started out small, now it's really, really big. And what they do is they have continuing efforts to offer learning opportunities for all of us, to have exhibitions and shows where we can upload our work and show our work in actual galleries and get together. And they also do an awful lot of testing different pencil brands for light fastness.
Yeah.
Light fastness, you don't want to lose your colored pencil pigment over just a few years because the manufacturer of your pencil has chosen to put poor quality leads cores in your pencil. Now, my favorite brand is Prismacolor, and we certainly we've taken it on the chin sometimes because not all of our pencils are super light fast. For me, personally speaking, please don't throw anything at your screen, but I do it anyway. I use them anyway. I know that Tuscan Red is a fugitive color, a fugitive pencil, but if I'm using 8 or 9 different layers of different pencils, if Tuscan Red gives out at any point, I've still got some of the higher light fast pencils within those layers. So I don't lose color intensity. I also don't put my artworks in the sun, and I also will put them under glass to protect them.
I agree. Listen, before we run out of time, I just want everyone to see that this is Catherine, one of Cynthia's beautiful daughters.
Oh, thank you. I just adore her. She's my firstborn. We did that photo shoot in Curacao.
Oh, you did. And then
yes,
this is Abby.
That's Abby. Yep, Abigail Rose. We did that photo shoot in Myrtle Beach, and there's the story behind that is I have to bribe my daughters to be my models because, you know, it's exasperating when your mom is bossing you around on a whole different level with a camera in front of my face. And so I said, okay, I'll buy you some hair things. I'll buy you some stuff to wear. And so we were doing the photo shoot, and it was a super bright day, and all that brightness was coming through the windows, and it was fooling my camera, and I was having some exposure difficulties. So I started to get a little snippy, as only mothers can get. And Abby said, it might have been Catherine, Mom, just stop. Just stop. Go get some chocolate. Just take a break and have a cookie. That's a great solution for me, as many of you have watched my expanding waistline and receding waistline through the years. Cookies are very good stress busters for me. So I had a few cookies, and they went out on the balcony there, and they were talking amongst themselves. So I finally was ready, and I opened up the sliding glass door, and Abby turned around, and that was her expression. And I snapped the shot. And that was like the money photo for me. Yeah. That was, and okay. Well,
the candid ones are really so often the ones that you want, the expressions that are real, you know?
And so that is my favorite artwork out of the hundreds I've done. Oh. But there's a story behind that too. And so I uploaded that to a CPSA exhibition one year, and it didn't get in. So I'm very quietly nursing my wounds, because we all do that. And I was out to dinner with Jeff, and you texted me in, and you were there. You were at the convention, and you said, oh my gosh, Cynthia, I'm looking at all the pieces that didn't get in, and here's yours. Your piece didn't get in. Like, I didn't know this already. And you said, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Or, I mean, you were really sweet about it, but I'm like, "Ugh, salt in the wound. It's, Anne of all people is pointing out the fact that this piece didn't get in. But yeah, it happens. So for everybody who enters competitions, just remember that you may think it's awesome, and it really is awesome in the eyes of some people, but judges just look for different things.
That's right. And I do have to say before again, these two ladies that are so beautiful, Abby and Catherine, Cynthia's whole family came on that cruise where I forgot to tell her about the photo shoot. And so I got to meet everybody, husbands. And, oh my gosh, these two girls are as lovely in their hearts as they are on the outside. It's a
you and Zach, you and Catherine and Zach, you guys hung out a lot together.
I fell in love with them.
They love you. They think you're amazing.
Okay, so somebody want to know, how do you get to write CPSA after your name? And and also before, let me run over here. Do you do the background right up, like in that birds one? Do you do the background right up to the birds or a bit into them?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, pretty much up to them. I don't want to have any paper space between them. So if you want to go into that and make it bigger, let's see what I did.
Yeah, okay. I imagine you went right up to it.
Yeah, I go right up to it and I push it in, and then I'll take my white pencil to get like on the right side.
Right
get
here.
That glow. Yeah, I'll pull some strands out over the background.
Yeah. Oh, and somebody else want to know, do you do the background first or the foreground?
So when I'm doing books for you, Anne, and pretty much for other publishers, I will do it incrementally. Right. So before I start a project, I'll say, how many steps do I want this to be? And I will take half of the subjects in it and do half of the background. And I'll just incrementally a little bit in each step so everybody can see exactly how the entire thing comes together.
If you were working on your own, say for, well, let's say this one, if you were going to work, there isn't much background there, but if you were going to, just do this completely on your own, what do you think you would, when would the background come into play?
Well, you taught us this, Anne. You taught us that it's good to have the background down because it influences the colors of the face. You get rid of, you get all that pencil pigment down on paper, and you're not going to have the risk of it coming onto a completed face and have to deal with, purple specks that land on the face or whatever. And it changes the values that you use when you already have your background down. If I didn't have my background down and I started in, her face might be too bleached looking if I did the background afterwards. So having the background in kind of helps me decide the colors for the actual subjects.
Yeah, and I learned that from reading a book on Andrew Wyeth, who said that he always did the place where the subject was going to live first. And I thought, oh, I like that. And that was, I think, even before I was doing color pencil.
Awesome. So the CPSA thing, I think you have to get into 5 exhibitions and you get your CPSA.
I think it might be 3 within 5 years or something like that.
I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure that you can find that out on the website or ask somebody, or maybe there's somebody on chat that really knows. But once you've got it, as long as you're still paying your dues, you can keep that after your name.
Yeah. So I had it early on, and then I had a year of very severe depression and wasn't able to do anything, and did not renew, not because I didn't want to, but simply because I was not a functioning human being, and lost it. And then found out later that I lost it because of not paying that, whatever it was.
Oh, Anne, but you know what, Anne, you are the queen of the colored pencil world. And I'm just saying this for the whole world to hear.
Stop.
You are the queen of the colored pencil world, and you can do whatever you want, and it's okay.
Can you, we only have a few minutes left, and I want to talk about this gorgeous piece, or have you tell us something about it?
Sure. Thank you. So my husband and I support a ministry called the Timothy Initiative. I am deeply religious. I love the Lord. He's been a huge part of my life and my family's life. And I was looking for a way to give back that was more than just money. I wanted to give back. God has given me something in the way of talent, and I wanted to do something directly back for him. And when the head of this ministry was at our church talking, somebody showed him my work and he said, would you do the portraits for our ministry? And it's called the Timothy Initiative. And they go out and they share about God in undeveloped countries with people in villages that you take days to even get to. And so I said, yes, I would be honored to do that. So every year I create a couple artworks, and the originals are given to high donors, large donors, and prints are given to lesser donors, and it is my honor to be a part of it.
Wow, that's wonderful.
It's
You
a
could
passion.
add something, maybe after when we're finished, a little bit about that in a comment on this, because people can still visit the Padlet afterwards. And of course, you can. I saw somebody in a comment say, "How am I going to remember all this?" But remember, this is being recorded, and it will be on our website and on YouTube, and you can watch it again at any time and fast forward to the parts, the good juicy parts.
Nice. If I can mention my next workshop. So
Yes,
Anne, you
yes,
know that I'm doing a book with you, and I just finished the
yes.
cover artwork. I think are you still gonna keep that for the cover
I
artwork?
think so. I think
The
that's so.
hot
It's
air
just so
balloons?
beautiful. Yeah, the hot air balloons are amazing.
Thank you.
Is
So I
this?
have 4 more pieces to go. So I took my April workshop off the table because I am working on these book projects, but in June, that will be my next workshop. So that is on my website now. If anybody is interested, I love to teach. I promise you, you will learn how to do every texture in there. I'll teach a couple tulips. Well, first of all, you get probably a 20 to 30 page download full color step-by-step tutorial booklet, and I will teach from that, and you'll get demo directions. Teach you how to do every section of that piece so that you can do it on your own. I also offer personalized critiques, and you also get the video recordings. So, and I've learned from the best. I learned from Anne, and during that whole COVID time, I had to cancel all my workshops. And Bob LaBelle, my wonderful marketing manager, my workshop manager, he and I were really thrown because every workshop had to be canceled like dominoes. They were just going down. So I kind of huddled behind the book I was working on at the time and thought, how am I going to teach? And then Anne, you came out with teaching online, and you were so fearless with that, and you even invited me at the time, would you like to teach a class for me? And I said, no, I don't have the nerve to do that, still sticking my head in the sand. And then over time I decided that it was time to be a big girl and do that. So I reached out and said, and if I pay you, will you show me how to do it? And you said, oh, heck with that. Just do one for me and I'll teach you everything. So that's what we did. And my son-in-law, Garrett, came and worked directly with you to set up my studio. And you and I practiced. And my dear friend, Janice, she practiced so much with me and told me I have to use my library voice and not my outdoor voice. And I mean, she just gave me all kinds of tips. And then it just happened. And then you
Yeah.
gave me your blessing to go off and do my own workshop. So thank you.
Well, it has been a fun ride with you, Cynthia, for 20 years. And I don't
And
know
I
how,
love you to
I think the
pieces.
only one we missed talking about was this, was just also, I mean, we have to go, but I just have to say, I love this composition. It's very unusual for you.
Thank you. This
And
is something I did with Craftsy. Craftsy contacted me
okay,
many years ago. They said,
okay,
would you fly to Denver? Would you
right.
produce? We've got a whole production crew here. And I said, yes. So I flew in. They treated me like a rock star. I got, a makeup person and my own fancy black car. And then I got hot cookies at the hotel desk. I'm all about the cookies, Ann. Remember that. So, and so over a week's time, we filmed this. And one of the funny things is that I was teaching everybody on film how to use the black Stabilo pencil and how to not brush the pencil dust over the yellow flowers. Turn your piece towards you when you are installing that black pigment. And so I'm really reinforcing that. And then in front of everybody, I swept the black pencil dust over the yellow flowers. And the cameraman just looked at me in horror. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm looking at it, and I have all this black pencil debris on my beautiful yellow flowers. So I just smiled into the camera and said, well, now I'm gonna, I don't even remember what I said, but I think I had to show them how to get rid of it. But it was definitely an intense moment. So I did 3 classes with Craftsy. I went back 3 times. I just heard from them yesterday, and they asked if I'm interested in doing another one. I don't really know. I'm having so much fun doing my Zoom and my books, but it's nice to be wanted, right?
Yes, it is. Well, thank you, Cynthia.
Thank
I
you,
knew
Anna.
this was going to fly by. Let me
It
just
did.
real quick look in case there's something just I shouldn't miss. Abigail Rose is my favorite Cynthia Knox work, isn't that nice? And thank you so much. Absolutely fascinating. More possible. Yeah, you're just, you're such a.
And I've learned from you. I've learned from you, and I watched you teach, and you have been my mentor. So thank you. And I want to shout out to everybody here. Yes, of course, I want you to take my workshops. But most importantly, and this is what all my students talk about, Ann Kohlberg has the best instructors on her site. So take workshops, learn from all different people. It's just the best way to expand your skills.
And you never know what somebody's going to teach you, or what little thing you'll pick up that kind of changes your direction, or improves your direction. You just never know.
You never know what jokes you will hear. I'd like to end with a joke, please. Okay. So I'm all about,
go for it.
I have to have a joke, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, so there were 4 passengers in a plane, and the plane was going down. It was starting to crash, but there were only 3 parachutes. So there was a doctor, there was a lawyer, there was a nurse, and a little girl. So the doctor said, well, I save lives, and I'm very important, so I need a parachute. So he took one, and out he goes. The lawyer said, I'm the smartest man in the whole world, so of course I need a parachute. So he took one, and out he goes. So the nurse turns to the little girl, and she said, honey, I've lived a good life. I want you to have a chance to have a good life too. So I want you to take the last parachute. And the little girl said, oh, there's 2 parachutes left. The smartest man in the whole world just jumped out with my backpack. Cute, right? Clean, right? All right.
Wonderful.
That is, one of my students told me that. I didn't come up with that on my own, but it's funny. All right. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, everybody who was on.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you all online again.
Yep. A lot of fun. Bye-bye.